Welcome everyone. My name is Jolene Warner. I'm currently a library and archives paraprofessional here at Washington State University. Part of my job entails creating informative materials such as this video to be used for library and instruction purposes. It is likely that your instructor has selected this video to get you started on a research project that will ultimately lead to your ability to perform quality research on your own. This video is part one of a three-part series. The following segments revolve around the ideas of source evaluation and data curation as they fall under the broad idea of research as inquiry. At the end of this presentation, please remember to complete the survey provided by your instructor. This information is valuable as it informs me of what methods are working and which are not. Thank you, and let's begin. So let's start with the definition of research as inquiry. What does that mean? So let's type it into Google and see what we get here. So research as inquiry refers to an understanding that research is iterative and depends upon asking increasingly complex or new questions whose answers develop additional questions or lines of inquiry in any field. So to put it more plainly, we're going to start off with a broad topic and we're going to keep asking ourselves questions until we have a more specified topic. And then we're going to start the process again. We're going to keep asking those questions until we get at what we're after. All right, so let's move back over here. And I have my presentation in this format because it's very difficult to do a screen recording while you have a presentation going, or at least I haven't figured it out yet. So let's go back to this slide. All right, so we're going to start right before we get into the 4 questions that you can see on the slide here. It's important to pick a topic that you're actually interested in. The reason why is that this ensures your continued interest to follow your ever-changing questions through to the end. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to repeat the process of asking ourselves questions a few times before we really get to where we're going. And so let's talk about the questions themselves. I have them listed here. You're probably familiar with them. When, where, who, and what. So we're going to be asking these 4 questions, and they don't have to necessarily be in any particular order. But for my example, my broad topic that I started with is cults. And as you can see from below, I color-coded, which part of my question or which part of my topic corresponds with which question. So when picking a date or a time period, I wanted to study modern day cults. I wanted to focus on American cults because there seems to be a lot of information out there about American cults, which is interesting. Obviously cults is the group of persons that we're studying, or group of people. And the what is, that's kind of where things got a little more specific for me. I wanted to take a look at narcissism and kind of everything involved with narcissism. So like gaslighting or brainwashing in modern day American cults. So I wanted to take a look at that psychological aspect of it. All right. All right, so when I do just a regular search of the term cults, and this is important as to understanding why we want to narrow down our topic. So if you were to just take the word cults and put it into a search engine, here, I'll show you what'll happen. You're going to get a ton of results, and the information could potentially be very overwhelming, and that's not what we want. But let's just, for fun's sake, let's take a look at how many results we have here. All right, taking a little bit of time. Looks like my internet is not wanting to cooperate today. Okay, so we've got over 5 pages. We're starting off just before a number pops up at the top. We'll go back up and look at that. But we've got 5 pages of at least 10 results each. And there's more after that. So there's at least 50 results here that we're looking at. All right, the result apparently is not going to pop up here. And in the interest of time, keeping with the time, we will move on. But yeah, there's probably going to be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of materials that I could look through with just cults in the title of it. So, of course, we want to avoid that because, like I said earlier, that's going to be an overwhelming amount of information, and we're not looking for cults in general. We're looking for something more specific. All right. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk about some key terms. So this is another fun part of the process. We kind of get to take our refined topic here and pick out some keywords that we think will be interesting or will garner some certain results. So I included an example of some cults or some aspects of cults that I could search. It's like Charles Manson, the Manson family, cults, narcissism. I could also look at brainwashing, gaslighting, in a few, there's some other cults out there like the Anthill Kids or the Branch Davidians under David Koresh that happened in Waco, Texas. I could take a look at that. But from here, we're going to include some terms that are both narrow and broad, and this is so that we can kind of vary what kind of results we're seeing. So let's mix and match some terms. So let's say I wanted to look at Charles Manson and narcissism. Let's go back to our thing here and see if we can refine this some more. So in this field here, this is just a simple search. What I'm wanting to do is include several terms. So I'm going to go over to advanced. I'm going to take a look at, let's go back. What was my thing again? Charles Manson and narcissism. Nope. Need to spell things right as well. Charles Manson and narcissism. And it may take a moment to garner some results here, but let's just give it a second. All right, so this is a search that at the moment, from what I'm seeing, this is a little bit more easy to digest because we have 7 results. So obviously we don't want to do research. We don't want to search just a combination of terms one time that garners less than 10 results and just call it a day. Obviously we're going to do some different combinations of terms that's going to get us more results. But what we want to do is just start here and take a look and see if there's anything of interest that we think could help us in our research. The Anatomy of Evil, a print book. Little side note, this little link right here tells us it's available in our stacks. So this is from 2009, so we can certainly take a look at it if it will open. I just want to take a look at the abstract and get an idea. And you can also use this initial search to read through the abstracts and possibly even find more keywords that you didn't think of before. So just keep that in mind while you're reading abstracts. So we've got a summary here, quite a long one, so I won't read the whole thing, but here's an interesting question down here. What do psychology, psychiatry, and neuroscience tell us about the minds of those whose actions could be described as evil? All right. So that kind of brings us to the question of like, are cults evil? Are cult leaders evil? So as you read and do more research, again, it's going to make more questions pop up in your mind. You're going to find more terms that you want to search. Maybe you'll find something more specific that you would rather look into, and that'll change your topic maybe slightly, maybe by a lot. You don't know. But that's kind of the gist of like getting started on it. We can come down here and see some subjects that it covers, good and evil, criminal psychology, antisocial personality disorders. Those are all good things to include, or good terms to include in this kind of search. All right, so let's go back for a moment. All right, let's see if we can do another one here. Let's see, cults and narcissism. This is probably going to bring up a large amount of results, but let's see. That's, of course, if my internet cooperates. All right, we're giving it just a minute. Ooh, okay. So this first page is 1 through 10 out of 276 results. So not as much as I was thinking. I was expecting like thousands again, or more. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Let's see. So we've got some articles. The last one I showed, I think, was a print book. Yep, we've got the Cult of Trump here. We could take a look at that. Osama, talking about Osama bin Laden and their perceived cult. Now, granted, this would be, I don't think this would fall under American cults, but I'm not quite sure how that one would be parsed out, just because there's a lot of involvement between America and this figure. Let's move on to our next page. You, of course, also want to check out multiple pages. You don't want to just skim through the first page and find a resource or two and call it good, because not all of your resources are going to be spot on for what you need. We're kind of just gathering some right now. And those will be part of the part 2 of this overall research as inquiry idea. Let's see, we've got an article on the culture of narcissism, a philosophical analysis of Fitspiration and the objectified self. Yeah. So that's a different aspect of American cults. Let's see. So obviously from my last search, I was looking at Charles Manson, so that narrowed it down quite a bit. So those results, like 7 results, are pretty believable when you narrow it down like that. Let's see. Let's go to page. Let's jump around a little bit. You don't have to go in order. Ooh, okay. Narcissism is ethical practice. Again, getting into that good versus evil debate. Oh, we could take a look at TikTok. I'm a millennial, so I don't really use TikTok very often. We could talk about the dark triad that gets mentioned with narcissism. Okay, so I think we've seen enough here. What I want to show you next is how you can add some tools or skills to this search in order to garner some different results. So let's see, do we want to do different terms maybe? Let's see, are we on cults and narcissism? Okay, so let's try this. So we're going to add some parentheses. And what this does is that it tells our computer or our database here that we are only looking, or that we're looking specifically for these terms. And it could be because of our fields that we have over here and our Boolean term that I'll get to in just a second. We want these terms, they could be found anywhere in an article or in a book or any other type of media, but we are specifically looking for these terms. So let's see if it changes anything about our search results. It should. It may not be a massive change, but it can certainly provide enough of a change. Let's see, we're still looking at 276 results. We've still got the Cult of Trump, but it looks like it's in a different place on this page than it was before. And that could be possibly like maybe these terms are just more used in this item than it is in the following items. Let's see. iPhone as a proxy indicator of adaptive narcissism. That's really interesting. Technology aspect. Okay, so we're seeing kind of some of the same stuff, just maybe in a different order than it was before. And like I said, that could have something to do with the amount of times these terms are used, whether in the actual item itself, or if we're taking a look at like the abstract, the summary, something like that, where these specific terms would be showing up more. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I said something about Boolean terms. So for anybody who doesn't know what those are, that's this little field over here that includes your and, or, and not terms. So this is how you can further expand or narrow down. So for example, we could say cults or narcissism, and most likely what's going to happen is we'll probably see these results decrease. But let's take, well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, so if you go into and, the more terms you're including, the more you're going to narrow down your search results. So if you go to or, we should see this expand and have more results, but we'll see what happens. Ah, yes, look at that. 313,000 results. So, you know, it's good to do a search like this to see just what kind of materials pop up, just because it'll give you it'll give you a different set of results, you know, things that you might not have seen before from being so narrow in your search. So yeah, I mean, that gives you a lot to think about in terms of like how you're going about doing your research. You know, you're including the parentheses, you're using your Boolean terms, you're using different combinations of keywords. So that should give you plenty of material to get started with. Let's see. All right. So it looks like this is the end of my presentation. Just a reminder, if you would fill out that survey that your professor has for you. Again, that information is very useful to me. So if you liked anything, didn't like anything, make sure you mention it in the survey. And I will work on reviewing those and making changes as needed or not needed. I guess we'll see. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.